Hey folks, welcome to a State of the Channel update for the first part of 2022 here on the Golden Bolt, or over on the main channel, rather, and also a slightly delayed Patreon Q&A for December that I fell behind on because, well, a lot of people got COVID in the last couple weeks, as I'm sure you all know. Yeah, so Christmas happened, obviously, for, all of us that celebrate it, and with getting together with family came the inherent risk of spreading big virus. So a few people in my family that I saw over the holidays tested positive after we saw them. So we had to quarantine. We're all fine. We didn't, they're fine. My family's fine who had COVID. We didn't get COVID. We're all good. But I had to shift around my schedule a bit for the last week of December, just to make sure that I could get out any voiceover I needed to get done in case I got COVID and my throat got really scratchy and or I didn't want to do anything. I could at least sit in my chair and edit rather than do voiceover when sick. I've done that. It fucking sucks. So I moved my schedule around and I moved the Patreon Q&A back, and now it's also an update video. So I'll get into the update part first, and then we'll get to the Patreon stuff a little bit later. First things first, I want to say, because I didn't say it in a community post, thank you. On Christmas Day, the channel hit 40,000 subscribers, which is just incredible. It's baffling, it's wild, it's thrilling, it's humbling, it's incredible. Like, for reference here, I usually make 3 goals for myself for the year, as far as subscribers and number growth go. I make a low goal that I'm guaranteed to hit, so it's not really a goal, it's just to feel good about myself in case I have a bad year. Medium goal, which is like a linear growth curve, well, growth line, rather, which is pretty expected. You're going to hit it if you just maintain where you are. And a high goal, which you shouldn't hit unless you do really, 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 really well. And I started 2021 at, I want to say, like 19.5, 19.6. And my high goal was like 40 to 50. I didn't think that we would get to that, but I was really, really hopeful that we could just get a really banger year out and hit 40. And we didn't even hit 40, we hit 41. And that's just amazing, seeing that the videos are peaking at just the right time for that to start happening and continue happening. I'm going to have to say thank you a lot more in the coming months. So I'll say it again and start right now. Thank you. And with that, I want to carry that energy forward into 2022 and keep moving at 110%. And that starts by me saying I'm kind of taking January off. Maybe. I don't know yet. I have one video planned for this week that I'm just going to kind of drop when it comes out. I'm not even going to make a Patreon version for it. I'm just going to release it. Because I mentioned in my last Patreon Q&A, I believe it was, someone had asked if I was going to do Sly Cooper. To which I said, you should go back to my old videos, because I did. I did all 4 of them a couple years back. And I thought about that, and I thought about how often I was getting Sly stuff, and I moved forward with my plan of making a remastered director's cut version of those 4 Sly videos and putting them into one mega video. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the intro and outro stuff from each of those original videos, and I'm going to add brand new recordings of new connective tissue with stuff that I've found out about the productions of those games since those videos came out. And it's funny because originally I had a history section in my very old reviews back when I did like review categories. I would do story, gameplay, presentation. You'll see that in the Sly videos because I'm going to keep those in for a fun little nugget of history. But early on I had a history section as well. And then at some point I cut that out because I think people didn't respond well to it, or they would tune out sooner. And funnily enough, now I'm back to doing it the first way. Except I don't have the format anymore. I just talk and make a theme and tell a story with my videos, which is more fun anyway, so it worked out in the end. Yeah, so that's going to be what's coming out soon, is just going to be a new version of that with some new info and some fun pop-up text with new things about like how in Ghost of Tsushima, some of the fabric waving in the wind, the animation code for that is Sly Cooper's tail. They just reused that apparently, which is really cool, and just one of those fun little things that you find out that I wouldn't have found out before that game came out, obviously. So no matter if you've watched those videos before or not, it's going to be one that you're going to have something to sink your teeth into. It's going to be like a 2-hour video when all is said and done, and when it's all put together. I think I have already about 15 minutes or so of newly recorded stuff. So there's a lot in here for anyone to enjoy, whether you've seen those videos or not. And frankly, not a lot of people saw those old ones, so it'll be fun. And that's going to probably take us through until near the end of January. I have a video that I was hoping to have out at the end of December, and then I decided to take more time on it and just take my time because I didn't want to rush myself. And that is my video on the Ratchet & Clank comic series, the 6-run comic they did with DC, the Ratchet & Clank All for One game, and Ratchet & Clank Full Frontal Assault, the 3 post-Kraken time spin-off era of Ratchet & Clank. Plus, I'm going to talk about the action figures and stuff that came out in 2010. Because I have one of the ones that never came out officially, so that's cool. And that'll be a fun video. It's going to be a little bit shorter. It's not really going to go as deep into it because those games don't have as much to go deeply into as far as gameplay goes, but they have a lot to go into production-wise, especially All for One, because people don't tend to realize that, you know, when a lot of people are mad that those games exist. And those games are A, pretty fucking fun, and B, were made effectively by a brand new studio. Like, there were people at Insomniac, and they were still Insomniac employees, but it was a brand new studio that opened up with the intent of making Ratchet & Clank spin-offs, because Ratchet & Clank was not selling super well anymore, and they were getting stale. And so they wanted to change it up, and they tried, and, you know, didn't necessarily work out, but it was a cool idea. And then I already have the work done for the Nexus video after that. So that will probably come, maybe not that same month in February, because I want to have another February video. I don't want to spoil that one just yet, because it could be actually one of like 4 different videos that I really want to do. And they're all really cool ideas. They're all very different ideas. And then I'll do Nexus in February as well. I'm planning on doing the movie separately from Ratchet PS4, because I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do a Ratchet movie video that isn't copyright claimed. And so I have to figure out the format for that one, and that's a lot of work to do. And I haven't done it yet. But effectively, you can expect a Ratchet video covering the main series stuff up until Rift Apart in June. And then once June hits, once that game turns 1, all bets are off. I'm going to give you a full retrospective on that game. I know even by then, a lot of people won't have PS5s still, but I feel like that's the appropriate time that, you know, a year has passed. I really want to talk about it. Insomniac's already spoiled some stuff on Twitter themselves, and I have some fun development stuff already, even though people might be under NDA. They've actually shared a lot of stuff openly with interviews and stuff. So there's some cool stuff with development of that game too that I find fascinating, as always. So I know I didn't talk about specifically stuff that I'm actually doing besides like, hey, I'm going to alternate Ratchet, and there's also a Sly video, and I can't tell you much of the rest, but there's going to be a Sonic video in the first few months of 2022. That'll be different from the first 2 Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 videos I did. Just because I know that that's going to be a popular demand with how well that SA2 video especially is doing. Like, that's on pace to be potentially my like number 1 or 2 video of all time. Pretty quickly, like in quick pace, and that's wild. So I'd be wrong to not follow up on that history of Sonic stuff that I'm doing. And related to that, there are a couple questions that cover stuff that I want to cover in the start of 2022. So I'm going to start with my Patreon Q&A section with a question from Litlinks, who asked me, between Zelda and Pokemon retrospectives, which franchise would I pick to tackle first? And when would I release a Zelda retrospective tentatively, seeing as Breath of the Wild 2 launches later this year in 2022? Allegedly. I mean, we'll see. But Zelda. The answer is Zelda. I have some fun ideas for Pokemon, but I don't want to play a long RPG for a video that is Pokemon right now, if that makes sense. A, because I have cool ideas for how to do it, but the discourse on Pokemon is especially toxic, and I don't think I'm fully equipped yet to deal with all that bullshit. Not that I would get to the really toxic ones right away anyway, but I just don't want to do it, and I keep going back and forth on, like, if I do Pokemon, I'm gonna have to do in generation order, and then do I do Gen 1, or do I do the Gen 1 remakes, or do I do Let's Go? I would not do Let's Go, but I would, do I do Fire Red, Leaf Green? I'd probably do Leaf Green. Is that fair? All that fun stuff. So I haven't decided yet on that. I know that I really want to do Zelda soon. My plan was always to do Ratchet and then start alternating Ratchet and other stuff right after the first Future video. And even before that, I was hoping to have a video on Majora's Mask out like last year. And then I realized how much work that was going to be at the same time that I was doing the prep work on 3, at the time I was hoping only 40-minute Ratchet and Clank videos on 1, 2, and 3. And that obviously did not happen. But I have a lot of my work for Majora's Mask done. I just now need to re-record the whole game if I'm going to do that, because that footage, I was recording it on my old laptop, and I had to record it in a weird way where I would have had to crop the video because I only had one screen and it was a pain in the ass. So anyway, it's going to be Zelda. It's going to be Zelda over Pokemon no matter what. It might not be Majora's Mask. Probably won't be Majora's Mask. It might be Ocarina. It could be Link to the Past that I do first. It could even be Zelda 1 and 2, because I have a really fun idea for how I want to do Zelda 1 and 2, but for, actually this is related to a question I'm going to get later, I don't want to do that video just yet out of a fear that it might not do super well. Whereas if I held on to it for a few months and dropped it later in the year or next year or whatever, it might be a more fulfilling video for me to make, and it might be a more rewarding video if there's more folks that want to watch it by that point, because at that point I would have more people, naturally just from subscriber growth, watching for what I have to say rather than the topic itself. And that always helps with those older games that are harder to really sell in the modern light, because they haven't aged as well when you look at them from a modern game design standpoint. But anyway, Zelda is the answer. I have two questions here that are the same question from two different people. From both JTart9, a good friend of the channel, obviously, and Even Luck, also a friend of the channel as well. They both asked me if there were any videos that I either regretted making in the past or other videos that I would want to redo in the style of my Sly video. For those that don't know, I redid my Sly 1 video because Sly 1 was the first game that I ever made, the first game I ever reviewed. I did not make Sly 1. And I then got to Sly, like wanting to do Sly 2. And I realized, well, I can't ask people to watch my first Sly video because I don't even want to watch that video. So I remade my Sly video for the second anniversary of the channel, I believe, or maybe the third. And then I did Sly 2, 3, and 4. And a similar thing happened with Ratchet 3, because I did Ratchet 1 and 2 way back in 2016. And I realized again, well, I don't want to do just Ratchet 3, because every time, like every year since those videos came out, I kept wanting to do a Ratchet 3 video, and I kept putting it off, because I would start it and I'd be like, no, it's not the right time, I'm not in the right mindset for it. And then it got so far along that I kept realizing, oh, the problem was that I needed to do my Ratchet 1 and 2 videos justice, because those videos weren't that great. So to answer Justin's part of the question, JTart9 had asked, do I have any videos I still regret making that I would want to redo? I didn't regret making either of those, and I don't regret any of the videos that I've made. I do want to say that for clarity's sake. I remade them out of a necessity, because I didn't want people to binge an old video to understand my feelings on an old game that I didn't maybe express as well as I would today, because I wasn't as versed in video game retrospective review script writing back then. I don't really have many other ones that I'd want to go back and redo entirely. Like maybe if I ever decided to do Mega Man again, Mega Man 1 was my second video. I did that because that was another game I could properly criticize. So I picked Sly 1 as my first video because it's a game I love that I could also be fair to. So I could show, in my first video to a new audience of people that have never seen who I am, that I can love a game but still be fair to it and still critique it, because I find that important for discussion. Mega Man 1 is a game I also like, but I can critique that more. I can criticize that, and no one's gonna A, bitch at me, and B, it deserves that criticism because it sets up Mega Man 2, which is one of the best sequels of all time. And I didn't never do Mega Man 2. So if I were ever to do classic Mega Man, I would redo 1 in the sense that I would make a shorter version of what I said in that video to then do like probably Mega Man 1 through 3 or something. I also have a question from another friend of the channel who I think I mentioned already in this video, Chris Mykonos fan. If/when the ever soul-draining pressure of analytics aren't a problem, what's a video you've really wanted to make but haven't been able to justify yet? And that answer is a lot. I have a whole list, for those that don't know, of like 100+ video topics that I really want to do. One of which I know is not going to do well. I'm going to do it this year. And I can't tell you what it is because that's one of the videos that I said I might do in February. Not sure yet. Have to figure out how I'm going to do it. But there are two that I'm going to mention off the top of my head here. One is Resistance, because I know people keep asking me about doing Resistance since I've done Ratchet and I've done one Spyro game in the past. I would like to do Resistance, but it's so hard to justify doing Resistance because I'm not going to do 3 separate videos, or 5 if you count the PSP and Vita games. I'm not going to do that, so I have to do one really long video on every Resistance game, which is going to be intimidating to those that don't want to watch an hour, 40-minute long video, and it won't be comprehensive because I can't cover the multiplayer anymore because those servers are gone and there's no way to get custom servers up for those games because they use proprietary multiplayer packet data, effectively. All of that combined with the fact that Resistance is just not a popular game to talk about on the internet. Like, there are people that love Resistance, but if you look at, like, popular channels that talk about gaming history or first-person shooters, Resistance is consistently one of the least viewed games on those channels. That says something to me. And so if I didn't have to worry about analytics, I would do a Resistance video, but until I have enough of an audience that I know that even if that video tanked with non-subscribers, that subscribers alone could make that video profitable to do, I would do it. And I'm not talking profitable like I need to make money on it. I'm talking like I need to break even on my time. Because that would be 8, 16, 24, 35 hours of playing the game at least. Maybe more if I can get into the co-op mode for, I think, 2-ad co-op. I have to then do hours and hours of research, even if some of it's already been done by the Ratchet videos. And then I have to do the recording, the scripting rather first, the recording, the editing, or I have to pay Chris himself to edit that video and have him look at a fucking bunch of the same first-person shooter level over and over again for a fucking hour and a half long video. And I don't want to put him through that, and I don't want to go through that. So that's one. There's also one I wanted to do, which was Tak and the Power of Juju. It was that Nickelodeon-owned platformer franchise that became a show afterwards. I have all those games. I had Tak 2 when I was a kid, and it was a really weird game. And I want to talk about all those. I haven't yet because it'll either do really well or it'll die. And I don't want to take that risk just yet until I know that I can eat a loss without it affecting all of my future videos. Because if you have one video that doesn't do well, it risks the next videos also not doing as well. I know that some people say YouTube doesn't actually do that. To some extent they don't, to some extent they do. So I have to be cognizant of that, and I have to think about that. So that's the answer. If I didn't have to worry about analytics, those are 2 videos I would do this year. Maybe. I probably wouldn't do Resistance this year, but hey, whatever. I should have answered this one earlier, but Nathaniel Foga had also asked me, how long do I think, hypothetically, that my retrospective for Rift Apart would be? And I am not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, because every time I think a video is going to be a certain length, that ends up being longer. I did not want Crack in Time to be more than an hour 20. It was an hour 45. I did not want Sonic Adventure 2 to be more than an hour. It was an hour 12, I think, something like that. No matter what, I always end up going a little bit over. So I'm not gonna answer that one yet. It will be long. And I have one more Ratchet & Clank question that I'll just bang out real quick here, which is from Tabriz Sadiq, who asked, can't remember if you ever touched on this anywhere in the prior retrospectives, but what do you think of the themes of consumerism that have been talked about with the PlayStation 2 Ratchet & Clank games? And I'm going to keep this one a little short because I'm going to talk about that in some of the upcoming videos, but the short of it is that I like it. I find it very funny, and I've always found it funny, but I don't find it as crucial to the DNA of Ratchet & Clank as a lot of the most vocal online Ratchet & Clank talkers are. And what I mean by online Ratchet & Clank talkers is that every fan base has a very, very, very small subset that actually discusses things online. For example, if I were to look right now, and I will pull this up, my Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time video has 1%, well, just over 1%, it looks like, of the viewers, of the total viewership, rather, of that video, have left a comment. That's total comments. So that counts the ones that I've left, that counts replies, that counts debates in the replies that go 20 comment strings long. There are only a few hundred people out of the thousands and thousands and thousands that have watched that video that left a comment, that talk about things. So there's always a common refrain that you'll see, that there are folks that say that the Ratchet & Clank games lost their humor and became too kid-friendly when they stopped talking about hyper-capitalist societies. And the only reason those games had that to begin with that was because that was already in Spyro. They were just doing the same thing again with Moneybags, but making it that everything was Moneybags. It was something that the people that owned Insomniac, like the very first people that worked there and own the company today, thought was funny. The PS2 games were predominantly made by just out of college, early mid-20-something dudes. It was very much a boys' club at that point, generally, working under a couple late 20s to early 30s-ish something dudes who were doing that same thing before. And those just out of college people moved to one of the most expensive places to live in the United States, while they also had a significant, I would assume, amount of college debt. No wonder they are making jokes about capitalism and consumerism when they are coming in, working, sometimes unpaid overtime, crunching on this product. Whether we want to call it crunch or not, it was. It's no wonder that those games had those themes, because they were just mostly carried over, and those people that worked on those games had kind of a right to be cynical. And that was just kind of the way that mid-20s dude humor kind of was when you were just out of college at that point in time. And it's not a coincidence that the games have had a different approach to how to tell Ratchet's story or Clank's story or the overall humor of the game in the years since, now that most of those people either don't work there anymore or they've grown up and have families. It's no longer just dudes living with their friends in a shared apartment. It's no wonder things changed when new people came in and brought their own flavor to this character, like how each James Bond is slightly different. It's no wonder that the humor shifted slightly over time, because hyper-cynical humor was kind of being replaced in the era of the first meme. Things change. People evolve. Ratchet is a 35-year-old man now. He's not going to be the same character. The humor's not going to be the same writing around him or around the universe that surrounds him either. And that's fine. I was more upset about it when I was younger, and then I grew up. And I realized that it didn't really matter to me. And I haven't even factored in yet the fact that these games have always been targeted towards children. I know they were rated T, but that's because rated E10 Plus didn't exist. The only rated T Ratchet game currently, after they were all re-rated for PS3, is Deadlocked. That's the only one. The target audience has always been like 7 to 10-year-old boys. These games were designed to be people's first platformer, people's first video game to some extent. Still, that's why Ratchet PS4 has like a very simple D-pad control mode, because they focus tested and realized that a lot of kids nowadays weren't really using the right stick, so they made an easier strafe control scheme. And that worked. It helped kids get better at the game and like the game more and get further in the game. And, you know, humor aimed at kids also changes over time, and that's okay. I get that we all like what we grew up with, but I don't know. It's a little weird to me sometimes to see people lamenting about like this marked change in the quality of the overall game, when the quality of the games didn't exactly change. It was just the humor changed, or your humor changed around them. Like, the games didn't get worse because there wasn't a butt joke. That's not a marked point in the history of Ratchet and Clank that the series got worse. It was just, hey, what if we made the innuendo a little more subtle, or not always about dicks? Maybe we'd be able to say what games we worked on and not feel as embarrassed working on them now that we're 5 years older and we're no longer just out of college laughing at going commando. It was great at the time, but we all grow up. It's okay for the things to grow up. Anyway, speaking of growing up, I have a question from James Boss here, who asks what my favorite racing game franchise is. And generally I would have said Need for Speed, but I haven't really played a lot of racing games in recent years. And this relates to actually something that I have another question, which, like, Need for Speed was like a guilty pleasure of mine. Like, I really liked a good, bad arcade racing game. And they were always good, but they were always kind of bad too. And I liked that. But I haven't really played them as much lately because I don't really know why. So I'm going to say right now it would be either Need for Speed or Outrun, because I really like the Outrun games. I love that the different energy that Outrun provides of virtual escapism, almost, of driving through and seeing those vistas evolve over time. I don't know. I like it. And then my last two questions here, or two of the three last questions, I guess, kind of all relates. So first, the Dan the Man Show, another great channel, by the way, check them out, asked, what's a game/franchise that's very popular that you don't like, and what's a guilty pleasure game/franchise of yours that you do like? I guess, like, I'm not a Call of Duty guy. Nothing against them. I just never... I was a Halo kid more. I was a Battlefield kid at first, when Battlefield was good for that, like, 2 years. Yeah, not in a COD. I don't play Fortnite. I think that all Rockstar games are now kind of bad. Like, all the recent ones are kind of bad. I love Red Dead 2, but it's a bad game. It's a good story. The gameplay is just kind of disgusting because it's combining the tedium of being a Wild West simulator, which I appreciate that part, because, again, presentation-wise, very hard to top. But then the gunplay is very much same as Red Dead 1, same as GTA 5, even to a lesser extent GTA 4, but I would say Red Dead's really where it started doing this for real. They made the gunplay so simple that you just aim down sight and you flick up and it's an instant kill because you get a guaranteed headshot. And that's how it is with GTA 5. I think that Red Dead was a partial response to GTA 4 selling so well to such a wide audience and people not realizing that game was trying to take itself seriously. And Red Dead took itself seriously too, but I think that they leaned into that audience appeal differently because it's the Wild West. They could be less realistic with it and be more spaghetti, kinda. And then GTA 5 just has just awful car controls, which are super arcadey, and that's the point. And I to some extent I like it, but I'm always conflicted. So, yeah. What's a guilty pleasure game/franchise of mine is I play a lot of Apex Legends, so scratch everything I just fucking said. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I haven't played a lot of the new season, but I played a lot of the first fucking 14. And then A Double asks a similar question, which is, what video game genre or series did I always want to get into but never could for whatever reason? I'll give you one that I just did, which was Ys, the Ys games. I just beat Ys 1 recently, and I really enjoyed it, actually. I enjoyed it so much that I bought the rest of them that I could buy, because they were all on Steam sale. They were all really cheap right now, like the cheapest they've ever been. And so that's one that I could get into. There are probably others that I could think of if I really thought about it, but I'm gonna give you a more positive one because I could just say most fighting games. I never got into Street Fighter, never got into King of Fighters. I want to. That's why we did Run Back in the first place. Was we wanted to play fighting games together and get more into them. Yeah. And then A Double had one last question, which is where we're going to end off for today, which is, have you ever considered videos on media related to video games like movies, TV shows, candy wrappers, and such? And he specifically mentioned video games for the good old algorithm. So A Double knows, and that relates back to Chris's question. So good man. Yes, so I'm doing the Ratchet and Clank movie somehow, some way. When I actually went and trademarked the Golden Bolt, because I own the trademark for this brand. I trademarked it for media relating to any form of media, if that makes sense, because you have to do it for certain categories and whatnot. So I did TV shows, movies, etc., and video games. I haven't used that yet, but that's just because I am afraid of the copyright system. Mainly, that is why. But I do want to do, I have a couple ideas for show and movie stuff that I would like to do, but like you said, there's that algorithm side of it where I have to do video game related stuff or nostalgia mid-2000s stuff for it to work, and I'd rather just do that later when I have more of an audience that's going to watch most anything I put out, rather than, if it's not a video game, they might not watch. Or if it wasn't Ratchet and Clank, I was worried people wouldn't watch, which is why I started alternating. And that's why I did Sonic first, because I knew Sonic would be the one transitionary thing that would click in with people that maybe liked Ratchet. And then a lot of people didn't watch that one right away anyway. So it was a good test of that, and that's why I did that. But anyway, that's where I'm going to call it for the December Q&A, because, it's gone long already. And I want to thank everyone who asked questions. Again, as a reminder, you can always ask questions in the comments down below. For those that are watching this video, even if you're not a patron, I still might answer it down below. All patrons can ask questions either on the Discord, which you get access to via Patreon, or on the Patreon Q&A threads as I put them up as well. And you can do that for as little as $1 a month over at patreon.com/thegoldenbolt and get some really cool stuff. Some tiers get merch discounts that are coming soon for some of the Golden Bolt merch. It's a good time, and I'm going to try and stop before 30 seconds, so I only have 7 seconds. As always, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.